At Barnard, I got a degree in something called government. Go figure that. It was an interesting experience in many ways for me. I had been elected the president of the freshman class within 2 weeks of when we started, and then I got to join something called the Honor Board. Barnard had a requirement that people commit to doing what's necessary to be done honorably. No plagiarism, no stealing other people's work, nothing like that. The first year I was on the Honor Board was the second year I was at Barnard, and it was like being a judge in a courthouse. Imagine that. I didn't know what would develop from that period of time and those experiences. But by the time I was in my senior year, I was the chief of the Honor Board. By then, my teacher, who was the one who was teaching us about how the world worked, and I learned from her that she was a lawyer. And she, she and I talked about my work as the head of the Honor Board. And so I applied to Columbia and got into Columbia. She invited me to her office when I got in, and she gave me her 2 favorite books from when she was in law school. She was a remarkable woman, and it was a wonderful gift from her. So at the end of my senior year, I graduated from Barnard, and starting in September of the next year, I was enrolled at Columbia Law School. I knew that if I was going to Columbia Law School, I was not going to work in a law firm and represent wealthy people or companies. I had minus zero interest in anything like that. So while there were 300 people in my class, it was also the time of the Vietnam War, so a lot of the males were being inducted into the service. And it gave the women a chance to have spaces in those classes where in previous years there had not been many women. And one of my best friends, who I still see repeatedly, was in our class. And she has now found a part of her career many years later, as had I. At the time, it was the 60s. And young people were really interested in civil rights and human rights. And we were out marching in the streets and in the large places where you could assemble enormous crowds in Central Park and in Washington. And it was so rewarding to feel that there was something we could do, because the men who were our age were being pulled into service. And it was dreadful. And people were afraid of death, and they were right to be so. So I took all the courses that I thought were what I wanted to know about. What I didn't do is I didn't take corporations, and I didn't take tax. I think there were 5 or 6 people out of all 300 of us who entered, or more, who entered the law school in my class, who didn't want to take those courses. But it was because we knew what we wanted to do, and filling out tax returns just wasn't it. It was a wonderful thing. Everybody needs to do it, and corporations do good things. But we didn't want to do that. So we didn't.